Hey there, it's amaryllis bulb planting time. Actually, it's a little past amaryllis bulb planting time, but you're good to do it right now. I actually have had these sitting around for almost a month now, and I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball, but it's no problem. They'll still bloom, they're just fine. Bulbs are so easy, and amaryllis bulbs are just as easy as daffodils or any other one of the bulbs you've probably been planting in your garden this year. This is not a step-by-step video. We did that last year, and I'll link to that in the description if you're looking for some more detail on things. This is more about what can we do with an amaryllis bulb beyond just have an amaryllis bulb. We're going to go into it a couple little things that I'm working on this year. There's only a couple of rules you really need to follow when it comes to planting amaryllis bulb. 1, bigger is better. Look for bigger bulbs. Better show for sure. Number 2, do not plant them too deeply. You want to leave at least a third of the bulb sticking out of the soil. I usually err more towards half of the bulb. The important thing here is that you're just trying to anchor the bulb in the pot. Those roots are right at the bottom of that bulb, and that's really the only part that needs to be going down into the pot. And 3, just use nice, fresh potting mix in them. You don't have to worry about what it is too much. Don't stress about it. They'll be fine. So the first thing I'm doing with amaryllis bulbs is succession planting, which sounds crazy for bulbs, right? But some amaryllis bloom earlier than others. And these are 2 of those. This is a variety called Olaf. It's a beautiful Christmassy, bright Christmassy red that I've planted in these green orchid pots that I've lined with sheet moss so that the soil doesn't fall out of them. And these are going to bloom. I mean, you can see this one is raring to go. We've already got 3 flower stalks coming up out of this one. So these are raring to go. They will be blooming hopefully right around Christmas. They'll probably start blooming before that, which is great because it's nice to have things as we lead up to Christmas too. And then behind that, I've got a variety that is not an early blooming variety. And so I will grow these somewhere else. When these guys are finished and these guys are ready, I'll bring these out and put these in the same place. Both of these go flanking my kitchen sink. Love amaryllis because they grow upright, so they're great for tight spaces. So not every place that sells amaryllis bulb will label early blooming varieties, but Longfield Garden, where I got these from, does. So they clearly mark which varieties bloom earlier, and this is one of them. So once those are done, we move into here. Nothing fancy about these. In fact, these bulbs are so big they barely fit into these pots. So there's really nothing to be done here except try to work some soil in there and keep them growing. So I said that bigger is better when it comes to amaryllis bulbs, but it can kind of mess with your plans. So the plan was to put 3 bulbs in this little pot. This is one of Peter Jackson's from Wakefield Handmade, and I thought I would be able to nestle 3 in there. Well, these bulbs, which is Terracotta Star, are so huge that there was no chance. In fact, I could barely fit these 2 in there. So I decided to do something a little different. These will bloom a little later than the ones I'm going to show you next. But I decided to split these up into 2 pots, and the really massive one I put in its own pot over here, and we'll add in another pot to this display because I have to have 3s, and maybe corral these all on a tray. Maybe I can do something like this pot, just with something simple growing in it at the time. I've got a little bit of time to think about that because these won't bloom as early as the other ones. So what we're going to do is zhuzh this up a little bit and add a little bit of interest to this beyond just the bulbs. So first of all, I've just done a little bit of moss in the top of this one. This one we're going to do a little bit of moss, but then I have something kind of special. So I'm using both the sheet moss that I had used for the orchid pots, and I'm using mixing in a little bit of that chartreuse reindeer moss. Kind of like those 2 mixed together. If you had natural moss from your yard that you could use, I mean, that would really be lovely, I think. So rather than this stuff, which is real moss that's been preserved, but you know, it's not as nice as the real stuff. Okay, now that we've got those in there, next up I'm going to work in these. This is some sort of fungi that I pulled off of a tree trunk, and I thought it's so beautiful. So we're going to tuck this in here, both of these, just on top, just to create a little bit of a scene. Now, if you had little pine cones or something like that, that would be really lovely in here. Any other anything you like, really. I mean, be kind of fun to go scavenge the yard a little bit to find interesting things. And then I'm going to add in these. These are actually some sort of really large pussy willow branches that I got at a local nursery. Now, I bought these for Christmas, outdoor Christmas displays, because the buds on them are this really pretty red tinge. Sometimes they open up and you actually have the little pussy willow there. And I'm just going to stick these in there. Now, you could certainly do this at the time when the bulbs are blooming if you didn't want these branches sticking out of there the whole time. I'm just going to do it now, just to add a little bit of interest. Now, this might look a little crazy right now with 3 twigs sticking up right now, but keep in mind when these bloom, that will all mix together and you'll have this nice texture contrast. Okay, so that's my little woodland scene here, and that again will go with this pot, and we'll create a little bulb display for that when it's time. So this is an early bloomer called Ruby Star. I'm going to go in the same place that those pots I just did are going to go, just at different times. So once again, I should have months and months and months of amaryllis displays here. And I'm going to do something similar with this one. Even though I've already done the moss on the top, I'm also going to take a few twigs. Now these are just dogwood branches that I saved from last year's Christmas display, so they aren't as colorful as they were at the time. But I'm going to kind of work these in. And once again, it doesn't look great right now, maybe, or maybe it does to you. But I think it adds a little bit of interest here. And then once these come up now, what would be real... So I think curly willow would look beautiful in here, or really anything sort of scavenged from the yard would look really beautiful in here. And I can always add more, take some out. It's super easy. It's just sticks stuck in soil. And this makes it pretty even before the amaryllis are blooming. But also, once again, I think it's going to make for a beautiful texture display while they're blooming. A couple of quick notes on amaryllis care. It's so easy, you guys. Keep these somewhere warm and sunny till they start blooming. You want to water in your bulbs right after you plant them, like you would with anything else. And then you don't need to go nuts with the water. Just keep the soil moist. Don't overwater. Keep them in sort of a sunny window or wherever, warm and light, until they're blooming. And then once they start blooming, if you want to prolong those blooms, keep them out of indirect light. That's not the case for these. They sit in bright sun all day on my kitchen table. But if you want to make those blooms last longer, put them in bright area, but not direct light, and that will make your flowers last a little bit longer. And then when you're done with them, what you want to do is keep those leaves growing through winter. Keep them all, keep watering them just like they're a house plant. Treat them like a house plant. And then in summer, you can take them outside and you can start fertilizing them. And then you go into the process of saving your bulbs for the following year. Hey, I hope those ideas were helpful. Something a little different to do with your amaryllis this year. But enjoy your amaryllis. They're so easy and so much fun and such a bright shot of color when we need it over winter. Have a great day in your garden. We'll see you soon. Bye.